I think, gentlemen, before we start, the first presenter is Dr. Akin Oyebode. I now invite him to address us. Dr. Akin Oyebode.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Esteemed governors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I got the invitation rather short. If I had time, I could have come for a PowerPoint presentation. So only in the last couple of days, I was able to scribble some thoughts on this issue. But corruption is such an endemic disease that an audience as esteemed as this does not need to be formally introduced to what we call corruption. The chairman seems to have stolen my thunder. He has not read my paper, but he has highlighted what is contained therein. Not surprisingly, because way back in 2002, he invited me to a forum in Abuja when he was in charge of the ICPC to ventilate all these issues. And it seems that the more things change, the more they remain the same. I want to congratulate the Governors Forum for deeming it fit to put this issue on their agenda, because it shows their courage and their sense of mission and integrity. If you are yourself a corrupt person, definitely you will not want the issue to be discussed in your presence. We've had it said that those who shout most about corruption are indeed the most corrupt people in the country. I'm not persuaded. I think corrupt people don't want to talk about corruption. Now, I've been asked to discuss building systems and institutions that prevent corruption. Coming into these premises, I ran into Professor Alex Boega. Way back in 1992 in the University of Ibadan, he had organized a discussion point on corruption, and he invited me to discuss judicial corruption. I think the book has since been published, and I'm glad that Honorable Akonbi is here present with us, because the late Kaudiesho held some inquiry about corruption in the judiciary. You see, corruption is so pervasive within the Nigerian body politic that in this paper, I said that there's some merit to the idea that who is not corrupt should be the first to cast the first stone. Hardly has any subject engaged the attention of Nigerians generally in the recent past than that of corruption and its deleterious consequences for the country's growth and development. Indeed, it's no exaggeration to suggest that the more analysis proffered by scholars or observers on this dangerous cankerworm, the more virulent it becomes. Only a few days ago, we were asked to accept that corruption has become part and parcel of our culture, since Nigerians seem to have exceeded the limits of their quote-unquote shockability, like Ray Epu once put it, at the venality and unrepentant penchant for primitive accumulation by the country's ruling, but I said you should read looting class. The fact that many are throwing up their hands in surrender to the relentless assault on the nation's psyche by many among those who claim to be protecting their interests is indicative, really, of the dire circumstances that Nigeria has undoubtedly found itself. Now, it is against this background that we have been invited to once again contemplate the issue of corruption in our country and what needs to be done to contain it. Only last week, we saw on television sets protests by Turks against allegations of corruption by the leader of that country, using his son as a cutout although he protested that it was the machinations of his political enemies. But you see that, like Honorable Akombi said, where the people know what is going on and they are sufficiently conscientized, they should be the last line of defense to rise up against nefarious and infamous conduct. Unfortunately, in our own situation, most people always say, left hand for God. Our people are helpless. They seem powerless. They seem there's nothing that can be done against corruption. In fact, some people say, look, why not join them? Because you can't beat them. If you are appointed to any position, you have fulsome congratulations, because people would think that is your opportunity also to join this looting class. About 2 weeks ago, I was nominated to the confab through the good offices of my governor. And my phone has not stopped ringing, even off the hook. People congratulated me that maybe it's my opportunity to move away from poverty. Because I hear that the sitting allowance, my son said he calculated it, it's about 100,000 per day. That definitely I will come back with bag full of naira from that enterprise. So we are so cynical now that we don't believe that anybody can be free from this corruption. Now, it is against this background, as I said, that we are being invited to contemplate the issue of corruption and what to do to contain it. Having myself spent some time ruminating on the issue and written academic papers on the subject, I honestly harbor feelings of déjà vu in being asked once again to volunteer opinions on that well-worn topic. Nevertheless, it is intended to revisit the matter and what it portends for the polity, bearing in mind the imperative of transparency, public accountability, and good governance generally in our long-suffering country. And that is why I congratulated the Governors Forum for putting this matter within the agenda. Because the Governors Forum, as I understand, comprises people who pay great credence to integrity and openness, transparency. Even when you look at the election conducted to elect the leader of this Governors Forum, we discovered that they insisted that 19 was more than 16. And that is why we can't find the 36 governors here. But I think I listened to the governor of Lagos State to say that there are no hard feelings, that he had to send congratulatory messages to the pretender on the other side that claims to be the leader of the Governors Forum on his 70th birthday anniversary. So what is this auger of corruption, which, in my view, constitutes a threat to the survival of Nigeria? So I come to the issue of the auger of corruption and the imminent mortality of the Nigerian state. If you will excuse the hackneyed expression, let me begin by observing that the cankerworm of corruption has eaten deep into the social fabric of Nigeria. I think we are used to that particular formulation. So much so that some even opine that let who is not guilty be the first to cast the stone against corruption. And I don't think all of us are guilty. Because if the truth be told, not everyone has been tar-brushed by the infamy of corruption, except we are to succumb to the fallacy of generalization. All generalizations are suspect, including that very one. So I believe that there are still some untainted souls in the Sodom and Gomorrah, which contemporary Nigeria seems to have become. There are still some people that can stand up to be counted, one of whom happens to chair today's proceedings. While it is no exaggeration to aver that corruption has corroded practically all facets of human endeavor in Nigeria, be it politics, the private sector, the police, our universities, even the church and mosque, it would be unscientific to ignore oases of propriety in the desert of infamous conduct and untoward practice. In fact, some, myself inclusive, had opined that if Nigeria did not do all it can to stop corruption, then corruption will indeed stop Nigeria. If we all agreed that the high incidence of corruption in Nigeria was unacceptable, then the country should stop at nothing to clip the wings of unjust enrichment, inflated contract costs, transfer pricing, influence peddling, nepotism, and other ignoble acts of malfeasance which characterize corruption.